All right, ready to rock. I got episode 7 of the Sell That SaaS podcast. My name is Will Padilla. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Javier Carrillo. Javier and I met at WeWork. So I talk about WeWork a lot on the podcast and how it's a great opportunity for people, especially, remote tech sales workers, to get a membership, meet other people in software sales, meet other sales professionals, and build a friendship. So Javier and I have known each other for like almost a year and a half now. Year and a half. We're both based in Scottsdale. So just like excited to tell you guys a little bit about his and I's stories of how we met, what he's up to in software sales, what the Scottsdale market specifically is up to for tech talent. So Javier, it's good to have you here. I'll pass it over to you, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it. First and foremost, I think, it's exciting to be on the podcast. I've been a huge fan of yours for quite some time now. And I can give everybody some context on just how we met. I mean, it was, I feel like we were Wolf of Wall Street right next to you through Clear Glass. But like I said, huge fan of you. I'm super excited to be on here. I think this is going to grow into something super special. I'm honored to be on here as early, as we are. I think episode 4 or 7. So, excited to drop some content and knowledge. And I think, out of curiosity, see what's going on in your world too, in this BDR space, senior commercial AE space, the following, this network that you guys are building. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff on LinkedIn, from these gong reps and, grin reps. And there's these personal brands that are starting to come to the surface. Now, I, as a sales leader, somebody who's typically followed a certain route in my career, I'm like, oh, holy crap, I need to take this a little bit more serious, So we'll talk about some stuff. But hey, my name's Javier for everybody. Some might know the name on LinkedIn, but I run commercial sales for a pretty cool startup called Red Panda. I really cut my teeth out of college at a company called Samsara. Super successful company, IPO'd a couple years ago. Was fortunate to have a great opportunity to bounce to a company called Verkada. Pre-IPO private company right now, doing really well in the camera IoT space. I'm happy there's so many stories that I can share, and I'm ready for that. And, I left Verkada to co-found a company called Glen Coco. And again, they're based out of New York. I think a lot of your audience is going to be pretty familiar with Glen Coco and, have heard of the name. And I'm excited to drop a little bit about, share a little bit about the value out of that company. But hey, now I'm back in the game, running a corporate sales team,
Yeah, no, that's great. It's just so funny how kind of you are who you surround yourself with. And so Javier was an inside sales director at Verkada at the WeWork in Tempe. And man, I'd walk by and these guys it was like Wolf of Wall Street, bro. You had the gong,
hitting gongs,
confetti.
Hitting gongs, confetti. Scottsdale changed my life. If something doesn't come out on sparklers, I'm a little mad. And so we there was one, I think there was one time, for the first time I went to a bar called Bottle Blonde. Everybody probably knows Bottle Blonde. And, somebody ordered this huge bottle and these sparklers go off. And I said, man, I think those sparklers should go off when we close a deal. And so, I went to go buy those same sparkler things and, lit those things on fire. So we had a good thing going. I got so many good things to say about Verkada too. I think, man, if you're in Scottsdale, Phoenix, I think that's the place to be. I really do. I think we're a little early here at Red Panda, for the one-offs, I think our head count, I'm bringing on 1, 2. At some point in time, I think I'm going to build the same thing that, we were building out, at Verkada when I was there. They're in great hands. I haven't met the sales leader who's currently there right now, but, looking forward to at some point in time. But, Yeah, I definitely, want to shoot that Verkada plug because I think
Of
that's a
course.
great place to be. Still, a lot of that culture has remained intact. I know pretty much everybody on the sales force still. But yeah, man, I remember, just for some context, I guess I'll flow right into when I met you.
Yeah.
I just remember I kept seeing you. You had that same hustle that we were on. You're there super early. You're right there in your desk, but right outside of our office. So, tapped you on the shoulder. I felt like you shared that same culture, that mindset, that hunger. And I learned a little bit about Grin. And yeah, I guess I forgot when the first time we hung out. I think I showed you around the office, and then we met out,
Yeah.
here in Scottsdale. So
Yeah, it's wild because it was just that repetition of, like, I think guys in general, when you see another guy that you're like, oh, he seems kind of cool,
Yeah.
and you kind of pass by day after day. It's like when I remember in college when I would pass by the same dude and just kind of be like, what's up, what's up, and then finally it'd be like, hey, what's your name, bro? Like, it seems like you hang around here. What do you do? And then you start to develop a friendship. I work remotely for Grin. And so I showed up right outside the Verkada office in the WeWork because there was a desk that I was able to sit at that I was kind of like my own little office. And I just saw you guys just having so much fun in the office energy. And even though I wasn't a part of it, I was watching and like studying, like, okay, this is the Verkada culture. These guys hustle. It's high energy. It seemed fun. And I think sometimes as a remote worker, I wish maybe I could have that just sometimes, right? Like, just to have that high office energy. But then, yeah, Javier and I figured out, like, I'm in software sales. I'm an account executive. He's inside sales director. And then we've kind of just, being in Scottsdale, it's allowed us to continue our friendship and build on that, and meet outside of work, as he mentioned, go out in Old Town or go out to golf or whatever. It's cool to be able to build that relationship, and like, shout out WeWork. And that's why I always tell remote reps, like, I think it's important to be able to go to a co-working space and just be around other people. I don't think anything good will come out of just sitting in your room all day.
I think WeWork, I mean, look, I'm not I don't get paid for this, right?
No one
but I
gets paid.
think, thinking about it, my history with WeWork goes back, to London 2019. And I can give you some context. I opened up Verkada's headquarters out there in 2019. We opened up a WeWork. It's the first time I actually saw what a WeWork was all about. In London?
That's sick.
So some context behind that. Look, when I moved from Samsara to Verkada, Ryan Young, Brian Bancourt, like savages, those guys at Verkada know what they're doing. Again, I think, they tapped me on the shoulder and say, hey, look, you came in 3 quarters, you crushed it. What do you think about going out in the UK and opening up our office? I said, hell yeah, let's go. We got 3 others on board. Joe Hess, BTC, who I feel like the world should know who that guy is. Crazy, ex-Okta, Verkada. We went out there and tore it up. And Brendan Kresser. So we go out there. WeWork was awesome. You get to, at that point in time, we met so many people. People were asking, hey, what do you guys do? My world opened up a little bit. I mean, I was like, man, there's so much more than just 2 companies that I worked for, Samsara and Verkada. I'm like, man, so many people are doing some cool stuff. I think WeWork actually has a niche that I don't know if they're not really branding towards this. And I mean, shoot, I'd love to be able to work with whoever the strategic, operation or the visionary person on what they're building, kind of talk about like the sales house, how much revenue and sales are being produced. And like, now that companies are going remote, I feel like WeWork is this place for remote work, but I feel like they should start throwing in a little bit of sales stuff where salespeople start to realize the value of it being in that like sales room, right?
Okay.
So like, you got a sales floor. Typically people think of like
a bullpen.
That's a single. When you think of sales floor, you think singular, like, hey, it's one company. But like, there should be these WeWork offices that they start branding as like sales house.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, shoot, I don't have the capital or I don't think the resources right now to do something like that, but I'd love to partner with WeWork on, they have a lot of vacancy open offices consistently.
Yep.
But, hey, I hope the CEO of WeWork or somebody is able to catch on to this, where it's like, they start to allocate certain empty rooms and call it the sales house. So basically it's within the WeWork, it's a dedicated area where it's straight sales, people on cold calls, and you're working, the people that are doing the same thing. I think that would be so much, like, there's so much value out of that. I don't think they have to change too much, but you got the salespeople all scattered throughout this community floor, which is great, but I think, having some sort of sales house where now businesses can take membership in the sales house, not really so focused on WeWork,
right?
But there's sales house. Now that's starting to make a little bit of sense. As a sales leader, I'm happy. I'd invest in something like that as we open up remote locations to, help with our recruiting. That'd be awesome, And so I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No,
I'm sure you can kind of see what I'm talking about, because I
Yeah.
think even you working out there in the community area, as I see you, would probably sit in that sales house.
I'd prefer to.
You know what I mean?
I'd prefer to, because when I'm out there in the community area and I make cold calls, some people kind of give me some dirty looks because it's loud. It's, hey, this is Will. Am I calling at the absolute worst time? And they, sometimes they'll hear me getting hanged up, and they'll kind of make some side glances because they're not in sales. They're engineers at WeWork, which is fine. But if I was around a bunch of other sales reps, and this from being in office at Verkada and Red Panda, I come from this huge sales environment with logistics companies, staffing, where I was on this main floor with hundreds of reps just hitting the phones, going crazy, high energy. But what was cool about that was, like, let's say I did get hung up on. You got your teammate right next to you, or you got someone else in sales who says, "Oh, rough one." They kind of make a little joke, and then you say, "Oh yeah, it was. I said this," and they say, "Well, how about you try this in the next one?" And then it's a competition of just being around other people. So if there was a dedicated room to say, "Hey, sales professionals at WeWork, come in here. Feel free to connect with each other." Obviously, this is not branded as like a certain company, but just people who want to be in the sales room at WeWork, come one, come all.
Yeah.
And
I agree. I think that would be an interesting, and I know we're kind of going on a tangent here, but I think that's just the way we work.
Yeah.
We can see it. That would be interesting if WeWork was to come up with something like that. I think, the sales house, I think a company would be more inclined, to invest in that within the WeWork, versus saying, hey, we're just getting WeWork passes.
Right.
So they know that, hey, they're going to go surround themselves by the energy we need to. That's that. I think, on that note of just remote work and stuff like that, I think just talking through when I left Verkada, what the vision was there, right? It was I saw the value out of remote work, where the world's going. I think Ryan Serhant, I went to go,
Love him.
I saw him speak in New York. I forget what it was called, but I listened to him talk, and he's talking about like the 60% of the workforce is going to be like independent contractors, and by 2026 or 2027, he's bullish on that. And I at that point in time, I had already left Verkada to onboard Glen Coco as a third co-founder. Shout out to Ingwan and Jason. They were, early on at Verkada working on the demand gen sales operation side. And then I think Jason was working on our guest management software and product at Verkada, one of the lead engineers. And, they broke off. They were working on Glen Coco for about 4 months. And then Ingwan tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, hey, look, we want to create the next Uber of sales, right? This is going to be the future of the way people work, the way sales works. And, it took, at that point in time, I just went out to Scottsdale, and I was like 7 months into opening up this office. And man, that was the toughest decision of my life, man. If I can go back, I would have vetted out a little bit more on just what my role was going to be at Glen Coco. I think I could have managed both a little bit in terms of being more of an advisor, consultant versus leaving Verkada. But hey, I think I wouldn't be where I'm at now, actually. So I'm very happy on where I'm at. Get to work alongside, legend Clint Nelson, our CRO. But anyways, when we went to go open up Glen Coco, the vision is how could we support all those I mean, all the business development, talent out there in the world, there's millions of people that have that cold calling skill that are these. I mean, I learned so much about the industry, all these 1099 workers that are insurance sales, selling, life insurance and solar sales and, people in college that are looking and aspire to break into sales. There's so many people that are able to get on the phone that businesses really are not tapping into. And so we said, well, let's create the Uber sales and, make a marketplace where they can easily go and find businesses that can utilize, some additional introduction meetings. I before I get into just like what Glen Coco is and, some of the details, I mean, I'm sure you've heard about Glen Coco. It's kind of continually get brought up with some of these.
Sharif brought up Glen Coco.
Yeah.
He loves them.
Yeah.
He tells his followers if they're looking for some SDR experience for their resume, try Glen Coco first.
Yeah.
So
it's a great opportunity for people to get on the phone. I mean, just even like narrowing and focusing on starting with college, juniors and seniors that know they're going to break into sales.
Right.
It's a great platform where it's like you have these tenured sales reps that, have a difficult time of interviewing for these companies and getting onboarded into these companies. These guys can go to Glen Coco and start to call on those companies' leads because the company's on the platform. So they're working for the same companies that some of these prestigious sales reps, and these really high-performing sales reps are working for. So they're like on that same playing field.
True.
That experience for a junior and senior, if I knew that exists when I was in college, I'd be on that platform calling away.
Same here.
I mean, hey, look, you go make 300, 400 a week, just setting introductory meetings. All these companies are doing is saying, hey, we're going to upload our contacts that have not been touched. People that get certified onto the platform can call, and if you're able to book an introductory meeting, for my AE that is qualified, we'll pay you, Glen Coco will pay you, 130, 150, $200 a pop, right?
Yeah.
That adds up.
It's a steal for the company too, because they don't have to pay for health insurance. They don't have to hire them as a full-time employee.
Talking about the math behind that, typically business to business, enterprise companies are average contract size around 15, 22, 30
Sure.
grand.
Yeah.
You're paying about $5,000, $6,000 on average. I think we took all the data for a qualified meeting. That's not closed business. So typically people have a 10% close rate, right? Let's just say, so that means you would need 10 qualified meetings for every closed one business.
Yeah.
At $40,000 for an average sales cycle or an average deal size, you're talking about spending, let's just say $40,000 for about $40,000, right? So you're kind of breaking even there. Well, you're saying that the company is now able to go to the marketplace, get some top talent because they had to get certified to be on that marketplace, like driving, a good car on Uber, right? You got to get certified. It's drivable. You can get A to B or A to Z, whatever you want to call it. And you're saying the company will now pay Glen Coco $600, $700, $1,000 instead of $5,000. So you turn around on a 10% rate. Now you're paying, let's just say 1,000 times 10. That's $10,000 for $40,000. I mean, dude, there's some value, and I think companies do need to take that a little bit more serious because if the world is shifting towards this model, you got to figure out how to be more efficient, do more with less. I mean, especially in these times. I mean, I think Glen Coco is at the intersection of hopefully they can really figure it out because they don't have a big team. I think it really is, it's going to be big for people like you and some of these influencers in this business development space to say, holy crap, this actually does make sense. Right. There's a lot of lead gen services out there, but there's a lot of intricate things about how they set their payment model up that is not set up like Glen Coco is. It's more on pure performance. Nobody pays or gets paid unless there is a qualified meeting. Mm-hmm. If there's no qualified meeting, the caller doesn't get paid, the business doesn't have to get paid or pay, right. For that activity. So you're essentially getting really good activity out there on the market for free, and you're going to pay only when qualification is, on your table.
It's the best. It's a win-win because then a a remote worker could be, as you said, in college, they could be down on spring break or something, or at the University of Missouri, like I went, in their dorm room, and they're just like, hey, you know what? My dad's in sales, and I know I want to be in sales, so let me get some experience. And
100%.
I'd rather make cold calls from my dorm room or my apartment, whatever, than go work at a restaurant as a server or something that's not going to serve you when you're trying to actually apply for a sales job. So I agree. I think it's fantastic.
You can create so many use cases
Oh, it's
on
just,
this. I mean,
you
think
can go
about
on
it.
and
The
on.
owner of this podcast studio right now, like, let's just say, I need a business development person, at $3,000-$4,000 a month to come in and cold call. Well, you can make a valid case and say, hey, look, actually, I have a lead. I just bought leads. I purchased all these leads for about $1,000. I'm going to upload those leads to Glen Coco and have them call and only pay for when, one of those qualification meets my threshold. So now it's a quick way for this, the owner to go to market without having to go through the hire process of getting somebody on full time.
Right.
Right. So there's so many different use cases.
Right. And there's a lot of benefits to having someone in-house, a dedicated BDR in-house, because they really understand your mission. They understand you're able to connect to them in person. But I think for people who are looking to remain lean, as you said, especially in today's time, looking to remain lean and only pay for when something's actually qualified, that could be a good option.
Yeah. And I'm not sitting here saying, hey, it's Glen Coco or none. Actually, there's, you need AEs, right? You need a path to promotion. You need culture. So not saying knocking the ADR, BDR, internal SDR. You can have those, right? But, everybody heard of A/B testing, right? You should A/B test. You should put Glen Coco on a certain campaign, a certain region, a new initiative, a new market, right? And so they don't have to tackle the same thing that your internal ADRs are tackling. You know what I mean? So there is some risk to, I think brand reputation, you want to be sure it's like, hey, I don't have all these callers that are just like headhunters and are willing to risk, like having a bad customer prospect interaction at all costs. Like, you don't want that, right? So Glen Coco has some things to work through and mitigate, and lower the risk and, putting the customer at ease that, hey, I don't have a whole bunch of people just like cramming one prospect and ruining, brand reputation's big. So
It is.
You don't want that. But man, such a great opportunity out there. I mean, I'm excited to see what they accomplish, and again, I think, yeah, definitely it's totally reasonable to, I think, have them build some kind of marketing affiliate program, where even in this podcast, I don't know how you're going to set this thing up, but even including a link, just say for people that are interested, go to Glen Coco to sign up. I mean,
Sure.
Because I can guarantee you, people listening to your podcast will probably walk away and be like, okay, let's see what this is all about.
I told them, Sharif looped me in with one of the guys at Glen Coco, because Sharif's on a payment play where they're paying him to post, and they're also giving him affiliate sales when they do sign up. And Sharif's like, hey, this is my friend Will. The guy Glen Coco never responded, but to be fair, I only sent one reply, so it's not like I'm really hounding him, because I've got so much going on where it's like the way I operate with brands or companies who want to work with me as a creator. You gotta come to me, because I got a W-2 job at Gren that is extremely time consuming.
It's priority too.
It's priority.
Because I think, like, some people are like, brand is key.
Yeah.
But don't be one of these influencers that are out there with minimal experience trying to claim that they're this
it's bizarre.
expert. Like, I can see the value of this personal brand thing, and I want to build it up and create that, but I'm not jeopardizing my, track record as well. You got to have some stuff to talk about. Having one good year and W-2ing, $600,000 because you were in a sales job that had the wheels turning. I mean, as long as you could speak English, you're going to make that almost.
Right.
It's set up for you. So go get some real experience. Go get promotions, right? And go take on some additional responsibility and figure out how to juggle both at the same time, versus going all in, in one direction before you really establish yourself as a true sales professional.
For sure.
You can make a case. I mean, in this sales world, I feel like it's the same thing as playing a sport.
It is.
I guess, how can I say it? I guess you have a lot of really good coaches that, didn't play professional sports and are training people, you can make that case. But I tell you what,
A lot of them played college.
yes, they have some kind of true experience. The best coaches, the trainers, like they had a 10-year career. They had a 15-year career. They had some good substance, and so I just would warn everybody, just like, hey, look, this personal brand thing is great.
Right.
But you go accomplish some stuff. You know what I mean? And I hope people hear that.
I think this is so not talked about enough.
Yeah.
And I think as a personal brand, it's important to not get on there. Man, I forgot what I was gonna say because it was like so money. Because it was like exactly what you were saying. I had like a perfect point. I was like, oh, dude, what about this? But I think for what I'm thinking about right now is saying you have a lot of these, I knew what I was gonna say. This is what I was gonna say. You mentioned sports.
Yeah.
Sports and sales are somewhat synonymous, right? It's you have in sports, you either win a game, you either have a positive record for the season. So we're talking above 700, 800. You're above 70, 80% for the year. If you're a football team, you went 12-2 or whatever the freaking thing is. I don't know. I'm not that into football, but the thing is that in sales you have the same thing. You have 12 months in a year. You have your quota every month, your quota every quarter. And if you mess up, you're gone. Just like in your, if you're a QB, you go 2-10 for this year, you're out. You cannot perform. And what I would say that is interesting with these LinkedIn influencers is like they like to compare it to sports, but sports, everyone sees their numbers. Everyone sees their numbers. It's all visible. And so when a QB gets up there and he's talking about, yeah, I threw for 4 touchdowns today, we had a great win. But then when these LinkedIn influencers post about, I closed an $80,000 deal, I'm a beast, I hit 400% to quota, that isn't visible to everyone. They could be making these numbers up. So I never, if you ever look at any of my content, I never talk about, I closed this deal, I closed that. Oh, look at me, I went this much to quota. I've never made a post about that. Now, on my actual LinkedIn, in terms of like what I've accomplished, I write my quota, but I never make posts about, hey man, I smashed quota 287%. I closed $300,000. Look at me. And a lot of these influencers are doing a lot of these posts, and it's like, how much of it is true?
I'm not claiming that it's not true. I think a lot of it is true. But tying this back to like maybe the value out of leaving Verkada when I did, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was a good thing because I realized how good I'm not. And I hope that makes sense. Dude. It really made me realize how good I'm not.
Can you tell them about the interview, how hard it was for you to get, you 4 years of experience?
Well, yeah, there's 4 years of experience, great, good tenure, so much I mean, I did things that people, I honestly I'd be happy to see what sales leader within the last 15 years did what I did, regardless of the title on 2009 or, hey, leaving Samsara in 2018 on its way up, losing a lot of equity on the table there at this really cool company, gambling, going to Verkada because, I heard really good things about this guy, Hans Robertson, who I hope I get to, meet next time when I'm back in the Bay Area, I meet up with. Guy's a savage, love him. Randomly juggling that. So leaving Samsara, going to Verkada, getting the opportunity to go to London, right in the middle of COVID, to go open up a new office, out there for 2 years, come back to San Mateo, and worked out of Verkada's headquarter for, about nine months, then opened up an office out in Scottsdale.
Wow.
And then left, after 7 months to co-found, Glen Coco, and then back in the game. I mean, my life has been in one big vortex, and there's so much learning that has gone on. I guess that is probably the best thing that's happened to me because, again, going back to not being as good as I thought I was, it's all about being an impact player. You can make a great career being a system quarterback and kind of sit within the model and make some good money. I believe a lot of these LinkedIn influencers have really good things to share. I love everything that they're sharing, and I actually want to learn from them. And these guys girls are a lot younger than me. because I do think they see the value out of a personal brand. I can bring a lot of, good experience from the corporate side and sales leadership side and, having some good tenure there. I want to bridge that gap a little bit, making sure everybody does actually fulfill a lot of that stuff and are able to accomplish stuff on the actual sales floor before going all in on the influencer podcast.
That's true.
And again, I could be rambling, but I'm just expressing the fact that, look, I'm super bullish on that, but I do think that, going back and digging in and learning and accomplishing stuff in an actual role is key.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so much to talk about, dude.
There's so much.
It kind of gets me.
We got about 5
Yeah.
5 minutes. We're looking at the clock here. We both have some meetings to get to, but I have a question for you specifically. But before I say that, I just want to let everyone know. I think there's huge value in the personal brand. It's going to be something that is going to carry you as far as like people are going to know you as far as what your reputation is. In this world, it's who you know. It's relationships and content, and having a good personal brand allows you to create relationships much faster. But if you're thinking about creating a personal brand, this is my advice. What I did at the beginning when I started posting TikToks about 2.5 years ago was actually just telling them about my process. It wasn't talking about being an expert. It was saying, hey, I'm an SDR right now. Does anyone know what the heck is going on? Because here's what I'm doing. I'm sending 50 emails. I'm using this subject line. It's working well. Just wanted to share it with you guys. And I just talked about the journey, and I talk about, man, I misquoted today, or I misquoted this month. Well, I think it was because I wasn't prospecting enough. So it was almost just like a vlog type series I did on TikTok, and that's kind of how I blew up, was people started following, oh, this guy's authentic. He's not trying to be some polished expert. He actually just wants to share what he's up to day to day. And then every other SDR who watches my TikTok was like, wow, I'm not alone. I'm working remote and this guy's going through the same thing. And then you build that relationship, and I graduate to an AE, and now AEs are like, dude, I love that. I had the same thing with a client. Dude, that helped me. I used that talk track. And so I just share, and that's why I think I told you that before. I love having my W-2 job at Grin because I'm actually getting real life experiences to then share online of, hey, this happened today. Yeah. If I was a full-time content creator, I wouldn't have actual relatable events that happen that other sellers are going through on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask you a question.
Yeah.
I think as we wrap, I think a lot of people would love to know this. A little bit personal here, but how do you know when it's time to leave? Because you've left several places and you made some, as you said, some of these moves that in an outside perspective are like, wow, that's a risky jump. But how do you know internally when it's time to leave?
Man, I mean, that's a deep question. I think, look, everybody's different. Everybody's different. I can give you two answers because of what I learned. You'll know when, honestly, it's easy. You'll know when you know, right? But if I can give advice, is making sure that you have and built a network of people that you can go run things by. Because if I can go back and look at my career, I'm in great standing. I'm happy. I'm accomplishing stuff, and I have room for growth, and I've set myself up to continue to grow. Thankfully, because of my network, right? I'm at Red Panda because I kept a really good relationship with Clint Nelson, who was, at Samsara. It was going three jobs ago.
Wow.
But I wouldn't have left, I think, Verkada a great opportunity. I had a lot more to accomplish if I was running it by a few people. So when you know, and nobody's going to mess with that. Everybody has that intuition, and don't play around with that because that's right. I would just say work on building your network and having your peers, people that you could bounce stuff off, because that can help you see things that you don't see. Although I knew that I had this entrepreneurial itch and I knew that I'm going to do it one day, was it the best for me at that very time at Verkada? I would say no. Hey, I know you feel this way, but actually, if I was thinking about a certain way, and I think if I actually expressed that to some of my leadership at Verkada, went to the top and expressed that, I think they would actually, obviously selfishly wanted to keep me.
Of course.
But I would have been able to see a bigger vision and probably kept me there and said, holy crap, I can be a CRO here one day. I really think I could have, if I actually stayed there. I know I could have.
Wow.
I mean, it's not over, I think, but I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Trust your gut. Nobody knows but you, but making sure that you have that network and be able to bounce stuff off. And that goes with every part of life. Great transition, with this whole personal brand thing. I've learned that, hitting quota is more than just a number, right? And I truly feel that way. I'm a sports guy. I bring it every single day. That's what makes me a good sales leader, right? I have a lot more to go on the education side and being able to properly lead and scale out operationally. But when you ask for somebody to bring it every single day, I put my stirrups and cleats on every day, and the whole team can see that, and they want to run through a wall with me.
Yeah.
And I just realized that over time that this whole hitting quota thing is a lot more than just a number. And I started to embrace that and say it a little bit more, and just making sure that people understand that, look, this whole networking thing, this personal brand thing, the sales floor performance, there's all of these boxes that people have that they need to check off personally, professionally, culturally, family. Hitting quota as a sales rep needs to be embraced a little bit and expanded on. The rep needs to actually go figure out how many quotas they have, because it's not just that revenue number you got. You got 10 boxes you got to check off monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. So little plug here for, myself is just, I was inspired by you to this whole personal brand. I'm going to be launching Hitting Quota, which kind of bridges the gap between, sports and sales, embracing that mentality, the holistic, the human being aspect of a sales professional. LeBron is the best sales player, whatever, this is a controversy, but he's the best guy on the court.
Right now, yeah.
But, and so are all these other people. But you notice that they're not only performing on the court, the charities, the giving back, the companies, the housing, the schools, the things that they're doing off the court. So this hitting quota is really embracing on and off the sales floor. What hitting quota truly means is being, a person of the community, a good human being for, all of the above. So it's an exciting community that, that I'm building right here in Scottsdale, complementing and, right alongside, of everything you're doing here in Scottsdale. And I think ending this off and talking about, I think this is a place to be, Scottsdale,
Scottsdale's the place, and congrats on creating Hitting Quota, bro. I think that you have a lot of potential to do something great with your personal brand. You've asked me questions over the last year and a half of hey, how do you manage that? And I think I've always given you the confidence that you can totally do this.
Yeah.
You have, again, I talked about how I have my Grand to tell stories. You have Red Panda to tell stories. You have Verkada to tell stories. And I challenge you to say maybe, once in a while you post about, hey, I remember my time at Verkada and we did this. These are some challenges that I learned that I would share with a new inside sales director, someone who wants to be a director, just because you have experience, you have the knowledge. You're not fresh out of college trying to be a LinkedIn influencer. You have this experience. So I want you to share it. And Scottsdale's a place to be, guys. If you're in the Scottsdale market, a lot of top tech talent here. If you're a company listening to this, there's a lot of great people here, a lot of energy. We got the sunshine, so we got
a bunch of stuff. I just saw this post saying Scottsdale was it got ranked number 1 for jobs in the U.S. right now. So
I need to see that.
All of the above, sun, the whole thing. Good weather, good people, good-looking people out here. You know what I mean? So that's huge. That's important, right? I think so, and I think opportunity is great. I'm super excited to see what you accomplish here with this, this podcast and the company and everything that you're building. And I think, as a partnership, I think, we just continue to, promote Scottsdale because, we want to build a good community, an area where you and I can thrive and everybody can thrive, and I think this is a great place for a sales rep to live and, work.
That's right. All right, cool, guys. Well, to wrap, Javier, where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, I think right now it's going to be LinkedIn. Yeah, reach out on LinkedIn. I think that's the best place to start. I think, you know, I'm going to be looking for, you know, some people to be like early pioneers of like being a part of the community, getting into that Slack that I, you know, had created. And I think you're the only one in there right now to test it out. But, you know, I think it'd be a great place to bring a handful of 10 and then round table on, you know, what they see and how they can contribute to hitting quota, you know, in their regions.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. This was an awesome chat with Javier. You know where to follow him. I'll link all his stuff in the description of the Spotify and Apple Music podcast. Thank you for listening. This was a fun one. A lot of good insight here on how to just learn from Javier, learn from his experience. We're telling stories. People love stories. I think if you're a sales rep, you heard Javier's story. When you're talking to your customers, tell your story. Customers love stories because it's relatable. It's an analogy. It's like, I remember I was listening to Steve Jobs' speech when he released the iPhone. He gave all these analogies that led you to the point of, this is why we created the iPhone, and it was relatable to the customer. So thanks for listening, and have a great rest of your day.
Let's go.